So, Bros is a gay romantic comedy from director Nicholas Stoller and produced by Judd Apatow. And I was actually really surprised by this is a like you could say this is a gay rom com, but this is a gay rom com with some very vicious comedy. Like this is like I guess like the easiest way to would be to compare it to like like another Apatow comedy like Knocked Up, where you could tell like the jokes were like they were fast and they were sharp and they were witty and they just kept hitting you over the head one after another. That Bros just kind of like bludgeons you with all this absurdity, while also making you like feel for the characters at the same time. And it does this so well that like even though we're like just coming into October, I would dare say this is probably one of the better comedies I've seen this year. This was such a genuine, like, it's just one laugh after another. And I think this is because like this is a film very much aware of what it's trying to be and how audiences are going to perceive it. Like within the first few minutes of this film, they immediately criticize the idea of a Hollywood executive ordering a gay romantic comedy and trying to like make sure like, oh, this is a gay romantic comedy that you could take a straight person to and all that, and then criticizing it and how it would be staged and basically being frustrated with like the process of trying to bring a gay romance to the screen. So it's very much like I said, it's similar to like Knocked Up. Like it's aware of the genre that it's dabbling in and can dissect it a little bit, but also still find the sweetness in it. And I think it's great to like work with that with like the character of Bobby, who's played by Billy Eichner, who's just in perfect form here. He plays Bobby, a podcaster, who loves to talk about just like his love life, which is not really that great. Like he's just getting into like random hookups. He's I believe he's in like his 40s, so he's feeling like life is passing him by, and that the world is just like a cynical place, and that it hasn't been as progressive to catch up with him. That he's just kind of a little bit bitter about the world, and not just bitter like with like heteronormative society, but also just bitter about like the current state of like gay culture and how it applies to him as well. So you have a character that has a lot of flaws that's interesting to work with. Like he's cynical, he's got to build on that, he's got to be able to find love, and it's not going to be easy. So while we get to that point, we get a lot of like very snarky comments and a lot of surprisingly funny moments with him trying to find connections and just being, lonely and trying to find that one person that he can connect with, while also believing that there's no way that he's going to be able to find romance. That is until he meets Aaron, played by Luke McFarlane, who's just like, he meets him at a club and he's just like that muscle bound guy. It's one of those love at first sight type deals. Like he just spots him in a crowd, just like he's immediately attracted to him. He wants to talk to this guy, but because he's been trapped within like this cynical nature of being like this very bitter gay person, he finds it hard to connect with Aaron. So luckily enough for Bobby, Aaron actually likes to watch Bobby get really heated and talkative. So immediately Aaron starts like goading like Bobby, like Bobby will ask stuff like, "Oh, what's your favorite type of music?" "Oh, Garth Brooks." And Bobby's like, "Oh, Garth Brooks." And then later they will go out on a bit of a date, and Bobby will ask, he will ask Aaron, "Oh, what's your favorite movie?" And say, "Oh, The Hangover." It's like, really, the film with like the homophobic slur within like the first lines. And then of course Aaron will be like, no, I'm just kidding. I like seeing you get angry. So there's definitely like a cute nature to them, but also this nature where they're not quite feeling like they want to be a couple. Like they have this attitude where they want to sleep around. Like definitely, Bobby mostly prefers like just random encounters, while Aaron, they clearly shows more into like group sex as the film goes on, and apparently one of their dates leads into group sex on more than one occasion. but yeah, just it's mostly just Bobby trying to come to terms with this, while at the same time finding funny stuff for him to do with trying to head an LGBTQ plus museum of history, which leads to a lot of funny moments where you have like this very diverse council who is always like bickering about what they want to put in the displays, especially since you have not to mention you have like so many different actors in this film that gets I doubt this is a surprise for like an Apatow film, but it's kind of like a little bit of like a who's who of like who is involved within this film and like who is like you recognize these characters from somewhere. In particular, I really liked Jim Rash, who you might know. He's done a lot of voice work. If you listen to him, you probably know the voice. Like he's done work on like Mike Tyson murder mysteries, and he voices like the Riddler on the Harley Quinn animated series. He plays the bisexual representative of the LGBTQ plus museum, and he's the most vocal and also has like the most pull at the museum, where his whole deal is like he wants to make like a whole section of like historical figures that might be bi. And just like I mean like Jim Rash always like throws everything into like his performances, and his eccentricities are beautiful here, especially since like there's this very biting commentary going over everything throughout, where everything in this film is like fairly critical. Like it's weird, it walks this line between being very tender and sweet with like the rom-com angle, but also just being absurd and just like mounting on like the satire where it's most needed. Like the best satire in this film, which for anyone who sees the film, this will probably be the funniest moment, is that Bobby likes to watch Hallmark movies. He likes to hate watch them just because like they've started to cater more to like the LGBTQ community, but in the most pandering ways possible, where it's just like he hates it, but he's like compelled to watch it. And the thing is, like, it's not quite Hallmark. I believe they call it like Hallmart or something like that. And this leads to like, with them trying to like play up all these different sexualities, they try to make these different specials, because Hallmark always says that they always like just shove out all kinds of like holiday specials and romantic comedies and everything like that. And they try to do it for every type of sexuality. Like, I don't quite want to spoil it, but like that there's like, I mean, I'll say this. There's one for like bisexuality where it says like Christmas with either, which has like the most hilarious scene to like promote it. But then there's one about polyamory, which I won't reveal here just because the title alone is so unbelievably hilarious, and it keeps going. The more they talk about this Hallmark film production, they show even more absurd titles as it goes on, where it's just for those titles alone, it's hilarious. I was laughing so hard at how they were staging this. And yeah, like this is very much a film that is keenly aware of of kind of like the gay community and like the LGBT representation, while also kind of like being very critical of it as well, and giving it like a decent scathing. Like probably some of like the funniest jokes are when they try to like they bring in like Deborah Messing from Will and Grace, and they try to stage like this scenario where like she was almost canceled and she has to like make a donation to the LGBTQ History Museum, and she just goes off the rails by saying, "Look, I'm a character. I don't just want to hear like gay people just unload on me all the time." It's like it was such a hilarious rant. I was spending so much time laughing. I can't remember every line of it that I almost want to go back and rewatch it just so that I can hear every line there. Now, at the same time, it's like, yeah, the biting humor and the commentary is all great, but also, like, the romance between Bobby and Aaron feels genuine, while at the same time being sweet. Like, they definitely joke around. They're, very resistant to their relationship. It's one of those, almost kind of like will they, won't they type romances, where eventually there will be a grand romantic gesture, but you spend enough time getting to know the characters and like the characters and feel like they're real and have real concerns, that you want to see them have like that sweet ending in the end. Because even like even some of like the sex sequences they have between them are playfully absurd. Like they get a little bit like comically aggressive in some of their makeout sessions, which is actually pretty funny. Some of them have been revealed in the promos, but there's a few more as well. Which is great. It's surprising to see, a film with like a rom-com with like a lot of sex and find a lot of humor within that sex as well. Like it never feels like, okay, this is the sex scene where it has to be tender, where it has to like be like sincere and heartfelt, and then you can throw a little music on top of it. No, they keep up with the characters. They maintain their kind of like resistance to being in a relationship because they don't want to get hurt, or they just want to have an easygoing lifestyle, or they've just become used to like their cynical ways. And mostly humorous. Like there's a few little jokes towards the end which are kind of like, yeah, it's okay. And I think it's mostly just because like of the LGBTQ history museum. Like it mostly just goes for, hey, here's this actor who we've thrown. Like there's literally a sequence where one of like I believe it was Aaron who recommends that like their museum should have like a night at the museum type theme. And there's something similar to that in this film where you get a whole bunch of celebrity guest stars that just state their names. Like it's weird. Like it's believable that a museum would do something like this where celebrities would just kind of shove their names out there. But at the same time, it's like, oh, okay, it's funny, but it's not as funny as like the rest of the comedy that's going on here. So yeah, it was really surprising to see this rom-com kind of take off. I mean, like if you want like a decent comparison, you could look at later this year we had another gay romantic comedy, Fire Island, which was which I felt worked, but it was kind of like it felt like Fire Island was kind of like more drawing from like like those Jane Austen type of stories. And this film with Bros, it definitely does feel like it's a more believable modern gay romance, as opposed to like the more like the more fanciful or the sincere version that you would see in like, or even like not as much as like the sincere version that you would see in like like a typical gay romance that is meant to be serviceable more for a straight audience, but also not being as like superficial as kind of like the Hallmark movies, which, as I've stated, this film does a great job just skewering so beautifully. So yeah, it's surprising, not just because it's a romantic comedy that makes you feel for these characters and wants to see them just hook up and just be together forever, but also just having a vicious amount of comedy in it. Like it is supremely biting. It takes shots at like Amy Schumer and and so many other celebrities here that it feels like it's a comedy with balls, I guess it's like the best way to put it. Like it's vicious, and it wants to have like, a lot of like wit to it, and it doesn't want to hold back. And the fact that a film can do that, can be that, aggressive with its comedy, but also still feel sincere and surprisingly tender amid all its sexiness. It just has the complete package. It just feels like everything you'd want to see out of a gay rom-com. Like I can't speak personally for like, how other, people of different sexualities might feel about this film. But from my perspective, I actually really enjoyed this kind of almost kind of like freewheeling and kind of like, and like I said, just biting comedy and effective romance that it completely won me over. It was such a fun film.